So, I made a purchase on Amazon and I basically purchased a bundle of products. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it has to do with something that I will be reviewing later on. Like I said, I got it as a bundle, and one item in that bundle proved to be defective. Unfortunately, it lasted less than 12 hours before getting the boot. So I contacted the manufacturer hoping that they would send me a new component. In fact, I specifically asked that they do this. And the manufacturer said, oh, well, you should contact Amazon. So I decided, you know what? This will be the first time I've done this, but I'm not about to play merry-go-round with the manufacturer. I'd much rather just return it and get a refund. So I go to Amazon and I click on the return or replace items. And one of the items that came up as an option for the return was to put it in a locker. I'd never heard of this until I saw the option. Maybe I'd seen them around, but it didn't appear obvious to me. But the locker was really, really cool. The only problem was you had to be wary of your package size. The original shipping package that the entire bundle came in was what I was going to send back. But I found out that that wouldn't have worked. So we ended up getting a package for this peripheral that just barely fit the peripheral. And I was worried it wasn't going to fit in the locker because they said 12 by 12 by 12 is your limit. And it turned out to be, I think it was 13 by 8 by 4. But believe it or not, they went ahead, gave me the code, said that your locker is guaranteed for 24 hours. I punched in the code, and the locker literally just opened. I put my package in, closed the locker. There was even a button that says my item doesn't fit. So my guess is they prepared for that possibility. But it was really cool, and like I said, I used it for return, but apparently it goes both directions. So for somebody who is, not necessarily home all the time and can't be there to pick up an item, you can have items delivered to a locker as well, assuming they meet a certain size criterion. And I was so happy with the service. I mean, all I had to do was punch in my code. The door automatically opened. I put in the package, closed the door, and that was it. No extra cost, nothing. I should note that I'm a Prime member. So if you're not a Prime member, you will need to pay extra for the use of the locker. But if you are a Prime member, then locker use is included free with your membership. And I just think it's totally awesome. It's for those of you who are blind, the locker can be thought of as a row of shall we say horizontal and flat mailboxes, with the exception of a couple compartments on the bottom that are bigger. The only problem is, for those of you who are blind, I never got a chance to see if this thing actually talked. So I don't know. Let me do a zoom in here, because I was so flabbergasted with this particular item. I mean, the fact that it totally failed after 12 hours, that's definitely defective. And I just wanted to get it back to the sender and get a full refund. So I was primarily thinking about that. But as I zoom in here, I don't see anything that looks remotely like a headphone jack, unless it's hidden here in the corner next to the keypad. So I don't know. I honestly do not know. But the Amazon Locker is cool in that you don't have to pay, if you have a Prime membership, you don't have to pay any additional cost for shipping. If you have to return something. And like I said before, if you're primarily away from work, you can actually, let's say you stop by the grocery store on the way home, which is actually where my locker was located. It was near a local grocery store. Um, you could stop by your grocery store, pick up the groceries, oops, and pick up your order at the same time. So that is really, really neat. And also, in my case, because I live in a climate where it gets really hot in the summer, that is, now that I know that these exist, if there's something that I think could possibly get damaged by the heat, and I don't want to leave it sitting on the, leave it sitting on the front porch during the summer months, I think that it would be really, it would be much easier to have it delivered to a locker, because those lockers, at least the one I used, was in a shaded spot. And from what I could tell, the item wasn't going to get destroyed by the heat. And I'm sure that the same is true for climates that experience extreme cold, or if you're just worried, if you live in a particular area that might be vulnerable to theft, a locker would be a safe way to get your item. So I think that honestly, if you have the opportunity to try it, I definitely would. For those of you who are entirely blind, who are subscribers, have you heard of these? What is your experience with accessibility? What do you think? In my case, I'm not necessarily worried about accessibility because my vision is good enough to where I don't necessarily need speech output on a regular basis. But for those of you who do, what has your experience been with the Amazon Locker? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.